I'm going to give you a postmortem tour of the San Francisco single room occupancy, aka SRO, that I lived in from October 2015 to July 2022. This is the first installment of the apartment series that documents my life in my previous place, the SRO you're about to see, and my eventual transition to my first big boy apartment. The SRO I lived in was rent controlled, and I paid $850 per month for what was basically an 8 by 10 foot shoebox, which answers the question of why I was able to afford to live in San Francisco for so long despite a shaky job history. Anyway, this place was janky to say the least, and the mess I maintain is a metaphor for the pride I took in that space. Let's start with the wall with the door. The room was painted this deep banana yellow that I definitely did not like. You can see my microwave and mini fridge buried under a bunch of junk. There's also a table buried under junk. And as you can see, there's even more junk in the middle of the room. This part of the ceiling near the door is where my smoke detector was supposed to be. A bunch of them in the building went off at once, so the building manager just told us to toss them. I don't remember when this was, but I may have gone a year without a smoke detector. As we pan down, you'll see a shelf of my face and body products that we'll get to in a second. Below that, you'll see my grody sink that I actually tried to keep clean, which is more than I can say for under the sink. On the shelf, I kept my paper towels, toothbrush, toothpaste, shaving cream, body soap, mouthwash, and razors. And in the back is the original sink plug that broke off. Of course. That's what the water looks like when it's turned on. If you wanted hot water, you'd have to sit there for a while unless someone somewhere else in the building was also using hot water. Next to the shelf in the sink are my backup paper towels as well as the used ones you can see in the trash. And a box of tissues. And another box of tissues. Behind the paper towel box is some of my water bottles, because you cannot have too much drinkable water when you live in an earthquake zone, as you can see by this stack in the middle of the floor because there's nowhere else to put it. And there's more cases over here as well as a bag of used bottles that I leave in the kitchen for other tenants who like to recycle these. Continuing along the wall, you see my soft shelving system with my camera gear on top and kind of organized because I actually care about this stuff. This back has my current drone, the DJI Mavic 2S. This is my controller for my previous drone, the DJI Mavic Air. You can see the box below it. On top of the DJI Mavic Air box is a Sony A7C box with a Canon Nifty 50 lens. The little bag in the back holds the batteries for the old DJI Mavic Air. Next to it is a furry windscreen for external mics that I don't use because no windscreen stands a chance against San Francisco wind. And next to it is the Sigma lens I use for talking head videos. In the middle you have 4 generations of dusty Canon DSLRs along with some of their boxes. These got me through my master's program and started my YouTube channel. In front of the boxes is a DJI Osmo Action Cam, my work badge for the rare occasion that I go into the office, and my keys. Over to the right is some small clutter in front of the DJI Mavic 2S box. And just above it is a Sony a6600 box. This shelf below has a bunch of old lenses, mostly Canon. To the left of the shelving unit is one of the 2 Neewer studio lights. And my old UC Berkeley umbrella that broke but I held on to for whatever reason. Swinging over toward my bed, you see the other Neewer light that basically just served as a backdrop for video calls so coworkers only saw some of the clutter and not all of it. So basically here I had a segment where I went through each and every shelf, but it gets really long and probably kind of boring. These shelves are mostly like junk drawers I threw art supplies and extra lenses into. So we'll just move on to the closet. In the corner is the closet door where I hung my face towel and bath towel. And the inside of the closet is about what you'd expect based on the outside. Speaking of junk, there was of course junk behind the door that prevented it from opening all the way. Anyway, in the closet at the top is way more toilet paper than I could handle. I must have gotten some sort of deal for it. Underneath the toilet paper, you'll see an XFL football. There's also this really old basketball and some dryer sheets. To the right, you see a stack of old jeans. And more toilet paper. Hiding in the box to the right is a MacBook Pro box and a bug fogger because this building has roaches. Yep. Here's my old Safeway apron. I'll tell that story one day. These are my shirts. And on the floor is the dirty clothes basket. In the top two shelves of this shelf unit are an airplane pillow and old clothes I don't wear anymore. In the shelves below, I kept my next rotation of towels. And at the bottom is a box of yet more clothes I never wore. Behind the dirty clothes is the mini fridge box. Before getting to the corner stuff, I should mention that the book you see does not equal an endorsement or an anti-endorsement. Anyway, here's my basketball. This is my workout mat. And behind it is my collection of resistance bands, so I don't need a gym membership. And there's my mini Christmas tree box. Sitting on the wall above my personal gym are my diplomas. Panning back down, you see a scented candle on top of some storage, surrounded by some other junk. These storage containers have things like deodorant and Q-tips. Below the storage shelf is the library shelf along with a UC Berkeley alum license plate I bought from the student store the day I graduated. The bottom shelf has a first aid kit and more books. On the floor in front of the shelves are my shoes and some dirty socks. On top of the box is my backpack, jacket, current jeans, most recent shirt, and for some reason unopened jeans, which will replace these crotch hole jeans. In the back are more clean clothes with no better place to put them, and to the left is my twin bed that's not long enough for my 6-foot body. In front of the bed is a microphone stand for voiceover work for videos. And that gap in the fitted sheet is from a sharp hook pointing up from the mattress and slicing the sheet in the foam. Yep. See that? I was sure to keep that specific spot covered with pillows whenever I laid down. And of course there's my MacBook and phone. Moving on to the pile of junk. There's a roll of toilet paper because you have to bring your own to the bathroom. Here is a pile of smart gadgets, some from work and some I bought for myself. There's definitely some trash on the floor. And over in the microwave fridge table corner, there's that pile of junk. Just above are some portraits I printed and framed. There's some popcorn. Plastic utensils and paper plates are a must here. I planned on using that table as a workstation when I first moved in, but you see how that went. There's the piercingly loud bell that rings whenever someone triggers the building fire alarm. And here's me shamelessly capturing my mess for the world to see and judge. This is the backdrop I bought for talking head videos. And to the left you'll see the origin of the wiring of the only electrical outlet in the entire unit. And they're two-pronged outlets, which necessitates adapters and power strips to be plugged into those. And it's fitting that I end this by showing you more trash on the floor. Now that I showed you the circus I lived in for nearly 7 years, I'll give you my final thoughts. No, I don't believe the room still goes for $850 per month. The rooms in this unit are probably well over $1,000 per month by now, but that's still a fraction of what a typical San Francisco apartment would cost at least. But I did just show you what you would get for that price range, so you decide how much you would fork over per month for something like this. As previously mentioned, this is the first part of my apartment series, which documents my life in my previous place, the SRO you just looked at, and the transition to my first big boy apartment, which you see behind me. What you just saw is an SRO room tour. The next video will cover life in an SRO in general, which means you will get to see some of the rest of the building.